We all know the story of HELLRAISER Bloodline, but in case you don't, here are the Cliff's Notes. Bloodline was supposed to be special effects whiz Kevin Yeager's directorial debut, but depending on who you believe, Yeager was either in over his head or the Weinsteins pulled shenanigans that Yeager didn't jibe with and walked. There were rewrites, Halloween 6's Joe Chappelle was brought in to handle the reshoots, and eventually the movie, Frankenstein Together from footage from Yeager and two different Chappelle-helmed reshoots, limped into theaters, blamed on the infamous DGA pseudonym Alan Smithee. If you're not familiar with who or what Alan Smithee is, a quick Google search will fill you in. Bloodline did enjoy the highest grossing weekend of any Hellraiser at the box office, before nosediving into oblivion. But oblivion wouldn't be Bloodline's ultimate fate. Its status as a troubled movie has become something of legend. Bloodline's ties to Halloween 6 don't end with director Joe Chappelle. In fact, long before I knew Chappelle had anything to do with Bloodline, I always saw the two movies as being related. They were both being made at the same time, they were both Dimension productions, and they were both released within a year of one another. And because of Chappelle's reshoots, they both have a similar look and feel. Not to mention both were troubled productions, both underwent reshoots, and both have alternate cuts. In the case of Halloween 6, there's the infamous producer's cut. In the case of Bloodline, now thanks to this gorgeous new box set from Arrow Video, The Quartet of Torment, we have the Workprint. Now I love Bloodline and have unabashedly defended it for years, but you kinda have to look around the rough edges to see what the movie could have been more so than what it is. However, what it is still pretty fun in my book, and damn ambitious for the third sequel in a B-movie horror franchise. I first saw some very rough alternate footage on YouTube many years ago. It had clearly been sourced from a VHS tape, there was no music, no audio at times either, and effect shots were missing. But it was exciting to see footage from Bloodline that I'd never seen before. So imagine my elation when I heard that a Workprint would be included on this box set. I was excited to see a different version of a movie that I've seen many times over, and it's so interesting, at least to me, to see how much a movie can change in the editing process. So right off the bat, it becomes evident that the Workprint of Bloodline is an entirely different vision of the film, and despite Yeager being credited as director, this is not his director's cut. Still, seeing his name in the credits was a surprise. Another surprise is the plot structure. Instead of being separated into chapters, past, present, and future, the timelines here bleed in and out of one another via flashbacks throughout. I liked this plot structure. It gave the movie a different texture and made it feel more dynamic. There's a little more character-y stuff between present-day Merchant and his wife, played by Nightmare on Elm Street 2's Kim Myers, that fleshes out their marriage a little more. I was stunned at seeing a flashback from Merchant's childhood involving his grandmother. I can totally see why this little tidbit was cut out, but at the same time, it was kind of creepy. We get lots more Angelique in the Workprint as well, which is a good thing in my book. You get a better sense of her desire for power, and more emphasis is put on her seduction of Merchant to acquire that power. Also included here, but is standalone alternate footage, is a scene in which Angelique plays a game of strip puzzle box with a group of horny aristocrats in the 18th century. It's a shame this sequence wasn't completed and included in the Workprint. Pinhead gets pretty much the same amount of screen time in both versions. However, here he spends most of the final act with Angelique and the twins. His one-on-one showdown with Dr. Merchant in the space station, in which he spouts some very Pinheadish dialogue, like,
"I am so exquisitely empty.
And
I cannot die. I am forever,"
is absent here though. Pinhead in this cut of the movie just seems kind of aloof and really pissy. I get the feeling that he and Angelique had something going down in hell. Oh, it was hot and heavy while it lasted. And really kinky, I bet. But when it went bad, it went real bad. To be honest, Pinhead feels a little forced and aimless here. In Peter Atkins' original script, he didn't show up until the 40-minute mark. In the Workprint, he shows up even earlier than in the theatrical cut, and just kind of lumbers around in the background. He seems perturbed to have even been bothered. Instead of frothing at the mouth to experience the flesh of new victims, he's angsty and apathetic. It was the 90s. The final act in the space station doesn't feel as rushed as it does in the theatrical cut. There's a little more time spent with Dr. Merchant and Rimmer. There's a scene in which Merchant asks a hologram priest for the absolution of his bloodline, and the ending is quite a bit different. The end result is still the same though, with the space station turning into a big lament configuration and sending Pinhead and his cohorts back to the labyrinth. But Dr. Merchant's fate is much different. The final shot of the Workprint serves as a nice little bookend for the series, had the series ended at that point, which of course, it did not. Much like the producer's cut of Halloween 6, the Workprint version of Bloodline is a more complete movie. It lacks the flash of the theatrical cut for a more fleshed out story overall. Neither cut of Bloodline is perfect, and neither cut is Peter Atkins or Kevin Yeager's vision of the film they had in mind. It's still a Frankenstein comprised of footage authored by two different writers and shot by two different directors. It's just a less mangled Frankenstein. And like the theatrical and producers' cuts of Halloween 6, I like both the theatrical and Workprint versions of Bloodline for different reasons. However, I think I'll be revisiting the Workprint a little more often. And by the way, the picture quality and the sound quality of the Workprint on this release are both fine. It's sourced from a VHS tape with the time code down at the bottom of the screen. It kind of reminded me a little bit of watching Halloween 6, the producer's cut, for the first time way back in the day. Another bloodline, if you will, that ties those two movies together for me. If you've seen the Workprint of Hellraiser Bloodline, please let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments section below. Do you prefer the theatrical cuts or the Workprint cuts? Let me know. Or just let me know your thoughts on Bloodline in general down in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up and share it on social media. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. And I almost forgot. Go check out the Bloodstream I did with screenwriter Peter Atkins. We go in depth talking all about Hellraiser Bloodline. It is definitely worth your while. A huge thank you to all my patrons and channel members for your generosity and support. Become a patron today and get early access to videos, have a say in what content appears on my channel, join me for monthly live streams, exclusive watch parties, and more. Become a channel member today and get access to exclusive badges and emotes to use when I stream, as well as members-only watch parties. Both those links are in the description. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.